Hi everyone, welcome to a special bonus episode of the Film Angle. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chris.
And yeah, today is a bonus episode. I just thought maybe a little treat for everyone. Like, obviously it's the Film Angle, so we mainly talk about films. But as you know from our May the 4th episode, we're big Star Wars fans, and we're both big Obi Wan Kenobi fans. Well, actually, no, we're not both big Obi Wan Kenobi fans, and that's why I wanted to chat today. This is the interesting thing. So I enjoyed Obi Wan. Chris, you were less so on it, but I thought when we were messaging about it, we had some conflicting opinions, and I thought this. I know it's not film, it's TV, so we can't, it's not really a Film Angle episode. It's a bonus where we're just going to talk about it because I think we have some interesting opinions. And yeah, so spoiler review opinions on Obi Wan Kenobi, the latest Star Wars adventure, 6-part episode series on Disney Plus. I liked it quite a bit, and Chris.
It was interesting that you said adventure, because I find it about as adventurous as a 9-hour flight.
Okay, interesting. I actually watched episode 2 on a flight. I was desperate
Probably the
to.
best way to see it.
I was desperate to watch it on my holiday to Greece when it started, and I watched the second episode on the flight. Maybe that's where my love of it came from, because apparently your emotions are a little bit more heightened due to the altitude. So maybe my love for it stemmed from
true?
altitude emotion. Yeah. Don't watch sad movies on planes, because you're more likely to cry.
Does that work the other way as well? Like, if you watch a comedy, would that be better too?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. I sometimes find it like awkward watching some comedies. Though I remember watching Get Him to the Greek on a plane, and there was and I was like sitting next to like a young child, and there was like some nude scenes in there, and I was like, oh no, and the child kept looking over, and I was like, oh God, I gotta stop this. This is weird. Like, I didn't know it was coming in the film. This is a long time ago now, but yeah. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Getting to the Greek. We're here to chat about Obi-Wan. Ewan McGregor's back, baby. Hayden Christensen is back. The prequels are back, baby.
Sort of
everything. But yeah, no, I mean, I think we kind of, as much as we dislike a lot of elements from the prequels and understand why they aren't the most liked films and stuff like that, we have a big nostalgic kind of love for them, and yeah, I just kind of it feels like a warm hot chocolate every time I chuck the prequels on. It just takes me back to my childhood, and something about the tone and atmosphere, and yeah, I was really excited for Obi-Wan, seeing Ewan McGregor back. Getting to explore that time in between episode 3 and A New Hope. I don't always like going back in time, but I don't know, just seeing him again just made me really happy.
Yeah, and he eases back into the character as if he never stepped out of the role too.
Yeah, he gets the voice down. I was a little bit worried on one of the trailers. I was like, that sounds like an impression of Obi-Wan, but no, actually in the show, he was absolutely perfect, and
isn't he somewhat related to Alec Guinness?
No, he's related to what's the bloody pilot in A New Hope? Yeah, sorry, he's related to the actor who played Wedge Antilles.
Yes,
in Star Wars: A New Hope. Actually, I think he played Wedge in all 3 films, didn't he? In 4, 5, and 6.
That's right.
So yeah, there's a little something there. But yeah, just I don't know, just seeing him back, and I know Tatooine. We've seen a lot of Tatooine with Book of Boba Fett and stuff like that. So not so fussed about Tatooine being back. Feels like it's everywhere at the moment. But
a bit sanded out at the minute. Yeah, just too much sand.
Oh man, I was really up for kind of like a sad Obi-Wan show, because obviously it very much deals with the fact that he is, grieving for his brother, essentially, who he had to kill. And kind of the consequences of that, and his new path in life, which is looking after Luke and just literally just trying to hide, so much so that he kind of disregards another Jedi who comes to him for help, and that guy ends up being hung. And we
sort of get that from him. We get the sort of melancholy maybe towards the end of the series, but like I felt Like, wouldn't it be really cool if we got an Obi-Wan story that was kind of like a Diary of a Country Priest, or like a First Reformed version of Obi-Wan that was just like complete downer, maybe
Yeah.
like a bit more solitary and a bit. I would think that'd be an interesting project. Obviously, Disney is never going to do something like that, so those
No.
dreams are gone. But
I think
no,
Deborah Chow did say, who directed all 6 episodes, she did say that the original script was a lot more down, much more of a downer. And when they COVID kind of made them go on a break, and they rewrote the script a lot to make it a bit more hopeful. And
yeah,
that's where they added in a lot of the Darth Vader elements as well, because you see a lot of Darth Vader here, which is good.
we do, we do. I'm going to take it a little bit from the beginning, though. We begin the show with like an episode like recap, would you say, of the prequel trilogy,
Yeah,
which I don't even know the series has a. I know it has a very like cinematic feel to it, visually, but it's as if like they really want to drill into you, like the events that happen in the prequels have just happened, and are on board for like a brand new season now. I thought it was quite fun, wasn't it?
I
I mean,
I
like,
loved the recap of the prequels. I was like, you
yeah.
don't think I've seen these 50 times? Okay.
I know, and it's actually I think it's one of the highlights of the entire series for me,
Oh,
and also
Chris.
no, I know it's. I mean, like, yeah, it's all down here from here, baby. It's downhill from here. But also, we are also talking about this the other day, Alex. When you compress all the highlights of the prequels, regardless of how you feel about them, you can't help but be dazzled and taken back to your childhood when you're watching this. It's like it's just like a hyper candy version of what you loved about those three movies put into like a 2 minute sort of short. And I thought that was great fun to watch. I might go back and watch it again actually. Like, but yeah, we've had what's been 17 years now to really sit on this prequel trilogy that
Yeah,
has always had its haters and its diehard supporters. We've addressed that we both have a soft spot for these movies, like you said earlier.
yeah.
And yeah, during this whole sequence, I felt that they were like sort of resetting the tone for the series to come. And although I felt that episode one of Obi-Wan was ultimately one of the series' strongest episodes,
I agree.
my hopes did begin to dwindle.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I it's also worth mentioning as well, like this in terms of live action, this is the first kind of piece of Star Wars since the prequels that is directly linked to them. Like obviously you get the little nugget here and there,
Hmm.
in some of the recent Disney Star Wars stuff, but nothing like actively says like we are doing the prequels. And I what I loved most about this film was like it felt like it was the sequel to the prequels. And if we didn't have the original films, this is the sequel that would get made. It had that kind of like there was a slightly cheesy vibe to some of it, dodgy CGI in places, annoying kids. I was taken straight back to the prequels with it, and I don't know.
I don't think it had that goofy spirit at all. I thought it took itself very seriously.
Oh come on, he hides Leia under a trench coat at one point to walk out of a Inquisitor base. It's cheesy in places.
I don't think that was intentionally cheesy though. But then
I
again,
I
I don't know if
think
the
I think it
Lucasfilms
was.
were as well, to be honest.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So was it now? So the show is 10 years after Order 66. Is that
yep,
right?
yep,
So most of the Jedi are like killed now, and former Jedi Master, like you said, Obi Wan's hiding in Tatooine under the name of Ben. But like, here's the whole thing with Star Wars and its terrible continuity with logic. He still keeps his last name, isn't that right? He keeps the name Kenobi.
yeah.
In the
I don't
original
know
Star Wars,
if they say that in the show at all,
ex-
but obviously in A New
yeah,
Hope they do.
yeah, and they don't say it in the show because they just want to dance around Alex. In the original Star Wars movie, like you said, an elderly Obi Wan he's taken on the alias of Ben Kenobi. So if he's hiding, he could probably have chosen a little bit of a better name than just his actual name. But
Yeah.
hey, it's Star Wars, and every plot hole is the product of retroactive plotting and screenwriting. So
Well,
I'll
exactly.
not dwell in details.
This is why obviously there's a little bit of uproar about how it kind of changes some things or creates further plot holes. I don't care. Like Star Wars has created so many plot holes for itself, even within the original trilogy.
Mhm.
Like plot holes happen, and it's just kind of like you got to head canon it out, like you got to figure it out in your head some way that it all works. I think this enhanced a lot of things in A New Hope, and I don't know. I loved it, man. I loved it. I really enjoyed a lot. Like, and don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying like it was perfect because it definitely wasn't.
Yeah,
I think when I when I first heard about the Obi Wan show, I was very excited. I thought there's no way they can do any wrong with this show, and I think like it's maybe not lived up to the expectations I set for it. I think maybe just under that, but I think there's a warmth to just seeing some of these characters again and going through that. It just for me, I would have preferred it as a film, which is how it was originally envisioned. It was
yeah.
actually envisioned as a trilogy of films at one
Oh,
point,
really? Okay.
and I just think like it was definitely more cinematic than the Mandalorian. And I think the story length because it was just like one big story rather than smaller chunks, even though there are definitely some episodes which are somewhat
Yeah.
self-contained, but it all kind of adds to this overarching storyline. I mean,
It was originally planned to be a movie just sort of like him looking over Luke, and then they get into some trouble with the Tusken Raiders, and it was going to be a bit more like a Mandalorian feel. But then obviously the Mandalorian came along, and also with how bad Solo did in the box office, I
yeah,
think it was like John Favreau and Dave Filoni like both decided like, nah, we can't do this. It's just gonna be too big of a risk, and the
which
whole
is
thing
such a
just
shame.
changed.
It's a shame that because I think Lucasfilm have taken home the wrong reasons as to why Solo failed, and I think everything post Solo has had a tinge
Yeah,
of like we're scared to do anything as unique as the Last Jedi. Um, and I think that probably plays into some of the stuff here as well. There's definitely, you know, you've got to hit some of the moments to make fans clap. You've got to have some cameos, and like that's not what Star Wars is about to me. Star Wars isn't a Marvel film. Like I go to Marvel for that kind of stuff. Star Wars isn't that for me. It's very much about the stories.
yeah,
Whereas I feel like a lot of people weren't on board with the show until like episode 5 when Darth Vader was epic, man. Darth Vader was epic, and we got to see a clone, an Attack the Clones flashback where we get to see young Anakin again. And it was like everybody all of a sudden was like, "This show's amazing." It was like it's just because you've seen things that you like. Like
yeah,
how we like. I wonder what in 10 years like will there be any original content that we'd want to clap back to because everything that we're watching now is just clapping because we've seen it in the past. I don't know. That kind of stuff makes me upset. I think we were
yeah.
talking about it the kind of there was like a viral tweet about everybody going mad when you hear glup shittos in the new Star Wars film, and it definitely feels like the glup shitto moments of like why does everybody love a glup shitto? Like just enjoy the film
Yeah,
or show.
I think everybody forgets what made certainly the original two Star Wars movies, A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, so good is because it was an exercise in like, right, this is how you can make a movie that's so big and massive, actually very streamlined and focused on the characters and the story, and yeah, all you got to know is there's the good guy, there's the bad guy. Here are our characters, here are our heroes, and good writing in between, and that's all. That's all you need, and all the fluff and pomp is secondary.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's probably why Return of the Jedi isn't as strong as its former two because it has a lot more of the stuff that is then present in the sort of certainly more recent Star Wars. Um, is wrong with it, and I think people just forget what made those original films so good because they were original at the time.
Yeah, 100%. I think I was hoping for a more character-based study of Obi-Wan,
Yeah,
and I maybe could have done without some of the, like the new stuff where it's just like, you're only going to know this character for half an hour. It doesn't matter, kind of thing. And obviously you
mm,
need other characters in a show and stuff like that. But I think there was maybe a little bit too much emphasis put on people. And I
yeah,
think it meant that like characters like Moses Ingram's Inquisitor third sister character didn't get the time to shine that she could have, say, because her story is quite interesting. Like, a youngling working her way through the ranks of the Empire to get revenge on Darth Vader. That's a good Star Wars film or TV show in its own right, but it feels like it was kind of lumped into the Obi-Wan show
yeah,
and obviously she's given more emphasis than most other secondary characters in the show. which obviously led to a lot of hate because people just want to see Obi Wan. I thought I thought she was good in it. I think some of the writing at the start, and I think this for all the Inquisitors, very cartoonish, very
Yeah,
very
yeah,
kind
very
of
like
just like
Clone Wars
we're
TV show.
angry and evil and then stuff like, and that doesn't work for me. Like I'm not sure the like as somebody who does like dabble in some of the extended animated stuff, like the Inquisitors were always a bit like, oh, okay, that's a bit weird that this is
They're
part of Star Wars.
they're basically just like a bunch of angry emo kids that work for the Empire.
Yeah, it's just like how do we add more red lightsabers in without breaking canon that the two main Sith are, you know, Darth Sidious and Darth
Yeah.
Vader. I don't know. It didn't always work for me, but I mean, seeing them live action, I don't know. They feel slightly wasted here. But like I said, like
Can I touch on the Moses Ingram stuff a little bit?
yeah, yeah, go for it.
I have to say, I'm sure you feel the same way. I was disgusted with the initial fan reaction towards Moses Ingram. We said like plays Riva in the show. She received copious death threats and racist comments on her Twitter page, and
Oh yeah,
it's just so sad to see people get so violently angry over a TV show.
yeah,
And Ian McGregor said it himself. Anyone who solicits or partakes in that type of behavior is just no true Star Wars fan, and
definitely.
it completely goes against everything that you apparently love about the series. So naturally, I went into episode one of the show, and I was really looking for the best in Riva as a character, and I hate to say it, but for the duration of the entire show, actually, it just didn't really work for me, and that's for multiple reasons. Really, like she really goes for the majority of the characters in the show, actually, and the first reason in characterization is the characterization in the writing. I feel that um there's no indication that there is ever an arc for her as a character. So we, as like a result, end up seeing her as one dimensional. And you said like that she does end up having an interesting story, Alex, but like you get that at the end of the show, and we're never
Yeah,
teased to like be built up to that reveal. So it's hard to latch on to her and then suddenly latch on to her at the end. You've had
yeah,
you've had a few hours with her already, and it's a little bit too little, too late. And I know that the prequels were abundant in one-dimensional characters before you say anything, but that was at least balanced out by the goofiness of those movies. And the tone here just really demands fully fleshed out characters that I feel, and I'm not sure that we get them.
yeah. I think, like I said, I think for the most part, Reva's character is let down by some writing, and then I think some like there's a lot of
I thought there was a
coincidences near the end where it's just like, oh, okay, we're here. She's healed from this, okay.
yeah,
And it also didn't help in the final episode that her storyline has no tension because we know Luke's okay. And
yeah.
second of all, it's cut between Obi-Wan facing Darth Vader again in their big showdown, which has been very much kind of the tease of the whole show, and the marketing is like they're gonna face each other again. And obviously it's a pretty epic showdown. It's quite emotional in places. Like in
Yeah.
you really dive deep into the emotional connection that Obi-Wan has with Anakin and stuff like that is quite sad. So then to like cut in between Reva chasing down Luke when at the end of the day, like she's not going to kill him, is she? Um,
No, we know because we know that happens. I mean, maybe if you show your kids, if you're like one of those people who show things in chronological order, and you've waited for Kenobi to come out, and you show your kids, maybe that might have some tension for them if they haven't
yeah.
seen the older movies. But yeah, but most people aren't going to get much stakes out of that. I don't feel. What did you think of young Princess Leia?
I liked young Princess Leia. I
Yeah,
thought the girl who played it embodied that cocky, kind of arrogant and just kind of
but do
hilariously.
you not feel like that's silly? Like they wanted to really remind us that this is the Leia we've always known. It's like it's just jarring and awkward seeing Leia, who is so young and tiny here, engaging in conversations beyond her years, and just comes across as sort of precocious. You can tell that the actress just doesn't understand the full context of the lines that she's delivering. She's really cute
Ah.
though.
I
and she does give her
disagree.
all.
I didn't. I never didn't feel like she wasn't Leia and she was just saying a line. I don't know. For me, that embodied the character for me, and kind of yeah, she's very young, and yes,
I
like
mean, were you the
it's a
same
little bit
person
much at
you are
times.
now?
But pardon.
Like when you were 10 years old, were you the same person that you are now?
No, no, but this is Star Wars, you know. At the end of the day, this is Star Wars, and I think you've got to have some trace of the character there. Like even when we meet young Anakin in Episode One, he's still got a bit of like bitterness and anger in him towards being a slave and stuff like that. There's
Okay.
there's elements
Okay,
of his future self there.
I'll take that on the chin. Maybe just for me, it was perform. I am somebody who really does hone in on performance when I watch anything. So if I even get sort of taken out, it does really take me out a
Yeah,
lot.
I mean,
So
I will.
perhaps I'm harsh, but
Yeah, I mean, I will agree. Like her chase scene sucks. Like,
that's
like
not
that.
her fault.
No, and I think the whole show. I think they relied on the volume a little bit too much. That might have been for COVID reasons, but I feel like with
Yeah,
the big LED screen technology that they've created to kind of
yeah,
fight against the kind of shoddiness that sometimes is a green screen. I feel like we really pushed the limits here. To the point where like every set felt like a volume sized room, and they didn't
yeah. The
work
speed
very
like a
well in
circular
terms of
set.
it was very much like here's a character and then there's a foreground and there wasn't much midground, and I feel
Yeah,
like the Mandalorian did that better where they definitely had some built set elements in the volume, but then
I
a
think it
lot.
helps when you have a desert when you're stuck in a desert setting. Whenever you're in like a very cold clinical imperial hangar, it's a lot harder to keep that illusion up. It ends up looking a bit more like a Disney World ride.
Yeah, yeah, and also like they seem to rely on it a lot when they're outside. So like because
Yeah.
that chase scene, when you see them run, like they're not running full pelt. It's because there's a limit to how far they can run because the volume's not huge, and
Why don't they just put them on like I don't know? They just put them on a treadmill or something, and then like that could
why
work.
don't they just film it in a forest? Like it's
I mean,
Lucasfilm and
yeah,
Disney, man. Like they got the money.
yeah.
Just like go to a forest, light it well enough to make it fit an Alderaan, which is cool to see that place again. By the way,
I don't know. Have you seen what they've done to Disney World and Disneyland? Like how like they've tripled prices and made it basically that only the elite can go to these
oh
things. It's like
yeah,
they're really
the
penny pinching at the
StarCraft
minute.
one is weird. I saw today as well. They have a $5,000 drink on the Disney StarCraft
Doesn't
Star Cruiser
surprise me.
hotel, which just seems ridiculous. But that's failing. But mainly because nobody can afford to go. Like I mean, it looks cool, but I mean, I'd probably never be able to go. You know?
Yeah, well, it's the thing. Like Disney are clever though, because people are so upset. Like some people, like there are people out there who absolutely just dedicate their lives to the Disney brand. I mean, and they'll literally those people are crazy. They'll make themselves bankrupt if it means that they can like partake in something like that. And Disney know that if
Yeah,
they know that at the end of the day they want their product.
definitely, definitely. But yeah. What did you think of the? Let's go back to Star Wars a second. What do you think of the fights? That's what
I thought
everybody
the
was there
I
for.
uh,
Hayden
well,
Christensen looked good when they
yeah, I mean,
smashed
like,
open his helmet.
it's fine. I mean, like, I think they're like that last fight sequence is well done, but I feel like everything else was just so like off kilter and annoying me that like I wasn't there for the fight. When it finally came, I was more just like, okay, yeah. I think that's more everything that came before it. If I had been watching something that was ultimately a satisfying and emotional package for me, I think that last fight would have worked a lot better. There's nothing wrong the way it's how it's choreographed or how it's shot or anything. It's just everything that preceded it, before just didn't add up for me. So that's part of the reason why I felt a little bit numb.
Yeah, fair enough. I think for me, it worked more on an emotional level. I like in terms of Obi Wan's psyche and Ewan McGregor just working it, especially with his eyes. The kind
Yeah,
of emotional moments for him really hit me hard. and I don't know, all the stuff with him and Vader and the flashbacks with Anakin. Not that like it was just like because I got to see Anakin again, but it was more like just like really honing down on the fact that this guy, number one, had to kill his
Yeah.
his brother in arms, um, or so he thought, and then come to terms with the fact that having not really gone full in on the deed, he's created a monster,
Yeah.
and having to deal with that, and kind of like how Darth Vader must feel as Anakin, like having
It's
to go through that as well. I don't know. They just really worked on the emotional stuff, and when you saw Vader's helmet crack, and you got to have the whole like, "I'm not your failure, Obi-Wan. I killed Anakin." Blah blah blah. Like that stuff worked
yeah.
for me. That really like on an emotional level worked for me, and I think that's why I kind of
And that felt
left.
very like it come from a prequel. Felt like those sort of lines felt like they could have came straight out of Revenge of the Sith, don't
Well,
they?
some of them did, I think. So
Well, like they sort of like invert them. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
So like I left it on a like that left me emotionally happy. Obviously, we were all waiting for the hello there, and we got that near the end, so that was great. The Qui Gon bit's a bit weird because he's just like a sassy ghost to him, which does,
a
but
sassy Northern Irish ghost.
yeah, I mean, I was emotionally satisfied.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel bad because I mean, like, I feel like that fight should have meant something to me because I remember like when you watch Revenge of the Sith, and I watched it like last year again, and some of them, like most of the movie, like it's a bit here hit and miss, and then when Order 66 kicks in, and the big fight between Anakin and Obi Wan and Mustafar happens, and it's like it actually catches you off guard and really,
Yeah.
it's like a bit of a stomach punch, and it's like it doesn't necessarily even earn it in the
No,
movie, and you're like, why am I feeling this? I
I think
don't
it's
feel
like
like
a
this the rest of the movie, and I'm interested that it works there and it doesn't work here because that's exactly the same scenario.
maybe
So
it's
it's funny how it
maybe
works.
it's John Williams didn't write the full score for this. I think the music
Yeah,
helps a lot. I think the ending of Revenge of the Sith is just like full on opera mode, and I think that
yeah,
heightens the emotions. So maybe here like they're not going full opera, which I think would have been a good idea. But there you go.
yeah. Like I was wondering why they didn't use the John Williams score from the previous films in the saga. It's like we get an original score for the show, and I think it missed the mark. It's very typical fare, and instead of doing what the Williams scores do and like propel action scenes and character moments,
Mm.
it's just like kind of treated like filler here. It's like more just like because the scene needs music, it has music.
Yeah,
Does
it's
that feel
almost
like that
as
way
if
for you?
like it makes sense that the Mandalorian and Boba Fett would have their own music because they're not
Yeah,
directly linked to the episodes or the
and it has that
saga
more that
so much.
Western feel to it, and
Yeah,
needs a bit
and
of
the
a different
music is
energy.
great. Like, there's no doubt about it. The
Yes,
Mandalorian music is so good.
very
But like, it
experimental
feels
and a
like
bit
Obi
different.
Wan is
Yeah,
so directly linked to the Skywalker saga that it should just continue with those
yeah,
motifs. But
yeah.
there you go.
And
There
maybe
you go.
the movie, like I said, we've been sanded out by Tatooine, but I also felt like the first thing that hit me about watching the show, and this is again going back to the first episode, was actually how grey and desaturated everything looked on Tatooine, or just in the whole show in total. And I get it's supposed to be a bit more somber, but it turned it from looking very cinematic in quality into a more generic looking piece of television.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
felt
I
sometimes.
think maybe that's partly the volume. Maybe that's partly just how it looks on TV, not seeing
Yeah,
it on a big screen, which I would have loved to have seen on. I'd love to have seen this on a big screen.
yeah.
Obviously, we got to wrap it up pretty soon. You and I, Chris, both got to head off. But I just wanted to leave you with
Okay.
one question. I was listening to the Fat Man Beyond podcast with Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin, and Mark Bernardin posed a very interesting question where he said, like, obviously there's no tension in this because we know where all these characters end up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What if they were to like completely just catch us off guard and the same way they did with Star Trek and the Kelvin universe, is it? Where the new Star Trek films are just like their own thing. What
Yeah.
if this show ended with like Luke just being killed and Obi-Wan has to go look after Leia and we just almost start again or just like get the what if Star Wars universe in TV show form? Would that be something you're interested in?
Absolutely. Actually, Star Trek are doing another thing like that at the minute with their new TV show. Have you seen that?
I've heard good things. That's the is that the world Star Trek New World or something?
Yeah, I mean, like, sorry for 2 second sidestep tangent here, but whenever I'm obviously we've discussed previously, I'm a big fan of Star Trek. The very ever first episode of Star Trek, it was is a 1 hour pilot, which was never Captain Kirk. It was Captain Pike,
Gotcha.
and it was a different actor. And the show had a pilot, it had its run, and then I don't know what happened. He either got really ill or he died or something like that,
Okay.
and they ended up having to recast the whole show, and they put William Shatner in, and then it became Captain Kirk instead of Captain Pike. But this new show is like, what if the Captain Pike show carried on?
Oh, okay. Okay, that is interesting.
Which is quite interesting. So yeah, like something like that in the Star Wars universe, I'd be really up for.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting. I mean, it would be a way of kind of,
Everyone would hate it.
oh yeah, definitely. Like, but there'd be a way of like keeping the fans who just want fan service in because you'd be able to bring back characters from the original trilogy,
Yeah,
and screw it, recast them, do all that, play out some stuff in like weird ways. How in with our modern brains and how we like things, how much more epic can certain things be, etc.
yeah.
And just have it as like a little weird kind of like, obviously this isn't full blown canon, it's just a bit of a what if, but I think that'd be interesting. And
But are we a little bit multiversed out if we're going in that territory? If
it's
we,
true, it's true. I
yeah,
mean, at the end of the day, maybe we just move away from the Skywalker saga entirely. I personally would just like to go forward. TV or films, like I'd love to see Ray and Finn and Poe back again. I'd like explore that further.
same,
um, Give the reins to Ryan Johnson. I know everybody doesn't want that, but
please.
I would be well up for that. And I don't know. I just feel like we're stuck in this kind of in between of like, oh, it's got to look like the original films, and it's got to be this way. I feel like George Lucas would always want to push it forward if he was still. I know obviously he went back
Yeah,
to the prequels, but in terms of like style and aesthetic, he completely changed what Star Wars was for a generation. Like the prequels are so different to the original films, um,
yeah,
and obviously I'd like something a bit like that, something completely different. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
absolutely. Well, agree with Alex or agree with me.
Yeah, did you
How
love
did you guys feel it?
Obi Wan, or did you hate it, or were you kind of middle ground on it? I'll do one of those Spotify polls, so check your Spotify under the episode, and kind of answer us in the poll there. Always interesting to see which way the kind of general consensus goes. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, good speaking to you, Chris. I know it's not a film. I'm not saying we'll do this with every Star Wars episode, but every now and then, if we've got something we want to say, maybe we'll chuck out a bonus.
I know you were itching to get it off your chest.
I just wanted to talk to you about Obi Wan, man. I love chatting Star Wars.
No, I know what the main like reason I really caught up with the show was because I knew you needed to get it off your chest, and obviously we both used to always talk about the prequels, and yeah, it would just be a disservice to our relationship if we didn't do it.
Exactly. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and yeah, obviously keep listening to the main episodes. Got another one coming out on Wednesday, so yeah, listen to us then. Thanks for listening to the bonus episode on Obi Wan. Great talking to you again, Chris.
You too, Alex.
Have a good night.
Good night, guys.